Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host Elio, and we are here with the brilliant band Widow's Peak. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having us. How
Yeah,
are we
my
doing?
pleasure. So guys, could you introduce yourself and what you do within the band?
Yeah, so we are 2/3 of Widow's Peak with an exclamation mark if you want to be picky. But I'm the lead singer, Mike. I also play guitar, and with me is
yes, I'm Deck. Could go Declan, but now Deck, and I'm the drummer. Someone had to.
So guys, let's dive into some questions. As kids, what were you listening to?
Well, where do we start? I've always been a sort of generic emo, to be honest. Like progressively, you start off with your Green Day, your Blink, but then you get more into your My Chem, your Jimmy Eat World, and from there, and it's never really changed.
Yeah, cool.
so Deck was gonna say the Wiggles or Teletubbies at the beginning to try and be clever, but he bottled it.
Yeah, I thought what you said when you were kids. How
he's
young
just
were we
trying to
going
be
here?
snarky. He's like that sometimes. I started with, like, my dad got me into quite a bit of sort of classic rock and metal, sort of like Iron Maiden, AC/DC and stuff were the first kind of bands that I were into. I remember buying thinking I'd hit the jackpot and finding like an Angus Young signed thing on eBay for like £4 back in the day, and then it was a sore lesson to realise it was a printed one. But yeah, that was the kind of stuff my dad got me into. And then there's also sort of stuff that my mum liked that I you could call it guilty pleasure music, like The Cause, and like Madonna and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, quite a bit of a mix. But then getting into my teenage years, discovered stuff like Green Day was the first band that got me into the similar kind of music that me and Deck both like now.
Me and you actually met because you noticed my Alkaline Trio shirt.
Yeah, we were in a nightclub in Sheffield, and Deck was wearing an Alkaline Trio shirt, and I just saw it was like a match made in heaven. I saw him across the bar.
We locked eyes.
We did, yeah. There were some eye locking. That's the kind of music that we kind of grew up on, I suppose. Yeah.
Cool. So you mentioned your parents who got you sort of like into music, but who else got you sort of like into music? Like, was it a sibling or friend, or was it sort of like a journey of self discovery?
Yeah, I'd say for me, I remember, like, there's so many times of different musical awakenings, if you want to be pretentious. But sort of like, I remember having, going on family holidays and being given my dad's MP3 player. That I don't know if there's people younger than us in the chat that might not even remember MP3 players and stuff. But yeah, and sort of like listening through stuff like that. And there's like, remember really liking like a Temple Tudor, Swords of a Thousand Men, stuff like that. But then, like, what got me properly discovering my own music was my friend lent me. It was one of the newer Green Day CDs. It was Uno by Green Day, and then that got me big into collecting CDs, and then just exploring that kind of pop punk emo kind of genre. So yeah, close friend got me into that, and then Blink-182, one of our big influences. Never liked them at first, and then someone bought me a CD for, I think it was my 13th birthday, and got into that way. So yeah, and then I kind of got into a bit more of like the newer metal stuff, again from the same friend who got me into Enter Shikari. So that's also kind of part of my mix. And then you kind of go on a bit of a rabbit hole after that with, Midwestern emo, a bit of Indian stuff. Obviously, like I said, we're a Sheffield band, so even though it's not really our style of music, I think we both would say that we do like Arctic Monkeys.
Oh yeah,
and all the Sheffield artists like Pulp and stuff like that. So I definitely think it's friendship and family, but also kind of where you're from. You kind of not necessarily feel an obligation to like Sheffield bands, but they're one of the first ones that's introduced to you, kind of thing.
Cool. Dick?
To be fair, I was the same. Actually, my dad and my brother really started me off. I remember again Green Day came to Sheffield in 2009, I think it was. I remember those two going, and I wish I'd have gone with them now. So that really, sent me off on the whole Green Day hype. They always had all the records and everything, and I ended up becoming a bigger fan than both of them. So definitely to my dad, my brother, and then after that we go from there. I think it kind of pretty similar to yourself.
I feel like everyone's kind of, anyone that's into music, or most people that I've met, they usually start with it's usually the dad's kind of music, I would say. What do you think? Would you agree? Were you into your dad's music back in the day, or?
I can't really remember my dad.
Sorry.
Well, I still wasn't sorry. It was, but my parents divorced when I was 7, so I can't really remember. So, right. But I always remember listening to my mum's music, which was rock and roll from the 50s and 60s, going into the 70s. So, I'll blame my mother for getting me into rock and metal.
You say that almost in a negative way, like I blame her.
Well, actually, it was in a good way, actually, because if I didn't listen to her sort of like her music, I wouldn't be sitting here, talking to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does become a big part of your personality as well, doesn't it? And I think it's a good way to connect with parents in different generations as well. I always, some people have go-to conversation starters, and it might be if you're seeing lads or whatever and you don't know them that well, you might ask them about football. But I think it's always a good one to kind of, figure out a common ground with people and stuff like that. That's always good.
Sort of like I've found over the years that music is sort of like a universal language, sort of like people it sort of like brings together people, so to speak. So we got a sort of like a comment about MP3s. Aussie and 2025 says, I remember tapes and vinyl. Same here. I grew up on tapes and vinyl.
Well, I think we're in the kind of sort of generation where it's kind of become trendy again. So, I've got a bit of a vinyl. I've actually got my dad's old vinyls as well. So I've got some of the good ones in there, like the Iron Maiden picture disc, where it's in the shape of a bat kind of thing. And I've got stuff like that. But I've got some of the newer ones, some limited edition ones that I've not opened and stuff. But plenty of them, like double vinyls with I think the Status Quo one I've got somewhere. Plenty of stuff like that. And then, tapes are kind of making a bit of a resurgence as well, actually.
Yeah.
I can't really see why, but I got you Jimmy Eat World one for your birthday,
signed Jimmy Eat World one. Yeah, can't remember that.
Yeah, well, just shows how good mates we are.
Be worth some
I mean,
day, that.
Tapes and vinyl,
vinyl's definitely making a comeback. I'm the same. I've slowly getting the collection going.
I wish I put more time into physical media and stuff, because it's just when you're driving or going to the gym or whatever, it's good to stream things, but there's something special about physical media, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It's like especially with vinyl, where you can actually put it on the record deck and actually put your headphones on and just look at the actual artwork on the cover, and you just you just sort of delve, you just get lost in it. Yeah,
100%. It's part of the full experience. I think listening to an album in full, and then having the sort of if it's a booklet or the artwork and stuff like that. It's some of the, I think when you're busy and stuff, you just don't give it much time. But I think especially when it's some of your favorite music and stuff, it's definitely worth sitting down with stuff every now and then.
Oh, good, yeah. Don't get us wrong, I do love streaming. I do love finding new bands on YouTube and all the other platforms. But to actually hold the physical media in your hand, it's sort of it's a completely different animal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also quite almost therapeutic. You know, when you go to like an old vinyl store and you're flicking through, and then you might find something that you maybe vaguely recognise, and then you're like, oh, it's only £3. I'll get that, and then you listen to that. But I think because you've bought and you're putting on, you can skip through and like recommended songs all you want on Spotify, but a lot of the time I'm skipping them anyway. But then if I've gone and found a vinyl or someone I kind of know and then proper get into it, I've done that a couple of times where there's a band, I think it was called, they're an old Sheffield band, kind of were, I think they did a few shows with Pulp and stuff way back in like the 90s and stuff. I think they're called Someday in May. But proper obscure, well, relatively obscure, like you can't find them on streaming sites. So I kind of just got them into them. Oh no, that was it. They were called Various Vegetables, and the EP was called Someday in May. So if anyone's heard it, of Various Vegetables, then I would be surprised, but it'd be interesting.
Cool. Yeah. Anybody in the chat or on the replay, if you know who the band is, drop a comment in the comment section. So, guys, out of all the bands that you've listened to over the years, is there any sort of like one influence or group of influences to say who got you into music and say, I want to do that, I want to get up on stage and perform live?
Oh, you go first, Dick.
Yeah. Go ahead, start. I'd say the biggest one for me was, it's got to be Jimmy Eat World. Yeah, when Jimmy Eat World first came to Sheffield, couldn't believe they came here in the first place and played Leadmill all them years ago, and that was when I saw them, I thought, that's definitely what I want to do. So if not, don't want to carry on work for a living. That's what I want to do now.
Yeah, I think for me the first one where Angus Young's iconic, isn't he, with the Gibson SG and the schoolboy outfit and stuff. That I think that's probably one of my earlier ones, and then I think from that, Avenged Sevenfold was a big one. That was kind of one of the first bands that I kind of got into my own, a bit on the heavy side and stuff.
Yeah.
But teenage years, like from the ages like 13 to 15, Tom DeLonge for me was such a. I mean, I don't know if you've ever like clung to someone's like sort of story and identity, but like, I was that kid that went to the barbers and showed a picture of Tom. Like, give me that haircut. Which people end up saying it was a Justin Bieber haircut anyway, so it was a waste of time, really.
Yeah, certainly in the 2000s, early 2000s, Travis Barker cut.
Yeah.
I was never allowed that.
Yeah. I mean, you've kind of gone for the frosted tips, look more like NSYNC or...
one
of the boy band ones.
I was into my 90s hip hop and 90s club music.
I'd say Tom DeLonge was one of the big ones for me. But I suppose also stuff like again, Arctic Monkeys are a big one, especially because they're so close, like identity-wise from Sheffield, being especially like the first album, obviously singing about places where we grew up, nightclubs that we grew up in, and stuff like that. It's it's a bit of an inspiration to see a local group of lads live your dream, I suppose, kind of thing. So I'd have to put that on there as well, I think.
Yeah, cool. So were you in any bands before you started Widow's Peak?
I've done a few tours of duty now. I've been there, done it, if you like. No, it's early on. I've started off quite early. Started off in school. Had a couple of bands in school. I forget the name of the first one. That didn't last long. Then, Flow was a good one. Yeah, we did Flow for a couple of years during school. That was nothing like what Widow's Peak is, but that was sort of good early experience. And after it went quiet for a bit, we're buzzing to get started again with it. And then
whatever happened to Flow?
We left school and
I think that happened.
we parted ways.
Lost the flow.
Yeah.
For me, to be fair, like, first proper band was Widow's Peak. We used to be called the Crooked Smiles, and you know, if anyone's listening that have heard, if you have heard Widow's Peak stuff, we've also got stuff under the Crooked Smiles as well. With like the situation, we had to set up a new one when we changed names, but we've got like a full album and like, you know, some EPs that I would not recommend because we were at 19 and still learning. I don't like them. But yeah, we had me and a couple of friends who are in no way musically inclined set up like a joke band in sixth form called Boo Sam. And that was just purely like it came from an inside joke, and like, oh yeah, we'll start a band. Jokingly went to, you know, we was like, let's book a practice room this weekend and just have a laugh kind of thing. And then we told sort of an acquaintance that we were in a band, which we weren't really. And she's like, oh, if you're in a band, we'll have like a bit of a house party at mine. It's beautiful summer's afternoon. We'll get loads of people around, all my mates, everyone's mates, and you can play a set. And we kind of like agreed to it with no songs, no, like I said, I think I could vaguely play, and we had a drummer that could, you know, play it in his garage a little bit, and then the rest of them kind of just made it up on the spot. So we managed to source a PA from somewhere and played a few songs, and there were a few other people. But yeah, I think that was what, like, you know, I've done a few showcases when I had guitar lessons when I was younger and stuff like that. But that was my first kind of time, I say, playing on a stage. It was some woman's decking while the parents were away. But that was like the first taste of, like, you know, performing properly that's outside of like people have to be there kind of thing. And yeah, Busan did the one and only gig, so it goes down in history as you know, I think it's up there with some of the Monsters of Rock maybe, or
people say I was there.
It's a ripple throughout history. That one show was called Molfest 2017, I want to say. So yeah, that's my short-lived history outside of Widow's Peak / Crooked Smiles.
Cool. We got a question from my head moderator, Lisaboo, who's all the way in Alberta, Canada. She asks, how did you pick the band's name?
Okay, well,
we had a few ideas, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We were thinking, how do we actually phrase it? Widow's Peak? Is it Widow's Peak or Widow Speak?
Yeah, there's actually a band. You know, I hope they don't, for some reason, see this and copyright claim us. But there's a band which is like a full Widow's Peak, like no spaces or anything. So we had the Crooked Smiles first, which lasted from like 2019 till last year.
Yeah.
And that, you know, we started with a bit more, like the music's definitely got a bit heavier, I'd say, a bit more polished as well.
Yeah.
But you know, the Crooked Smiles came about because we were spending ages thinking of a band name, and it was just one of the lyrics of the first song that never saw light of day.
Again, another one we need to bring back.
Yeah. But Widow's Peak was quite interesting because, you know, we thought we sort of like, well, I'm clinging to saying that I'm in my mid-20s. You're a bit past that now, aren't you, Dave?
Yeah, 27 is still mid. It's still classed as mid.
Is it? Yeah, like Widow's Peak, it's a bit like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek reference to getting a bit older. You know, your airline starts going a little bit, and but you know, I think it's just kind of, I think it's kind of got that dark kind of, obviously, imagery of like widow and peak. There's also a mountain called Widow's Peak and stuff. Some bloke actually in the pub, really mysterious fella. We were at the pub one time just discussing the band names, because there were a few others that we were debating. Like, I think Charm Offensive was one that I quite liked.
Yeah.
Those kind of like dark but punchy kind of names is kind of what we were looking for. And we talked about Widow's Peak, and this guy comes over and sits with us and he's like, yeah, it's actually, are you referencing this mountain and stuff like that? Oh, not really, but it sounds cool. And he starts basically saying that he's had a long, illustrious career in the music industry, and he just wouldn't tell us where or when or who with. And then he disappeared off into the night, and we never saw him again. So, but he kept trying to feed us loads of ideas, like a booklet with photos off the mountains in our first
yeah.
EP, weren't it? So, yeah, that's how Widow's Peak came to be.
Cool. So yeah, thank you for that, Lisa. Right, what has the band been up to, especially in the last 12 months?
I would say a better question is, what haven't we been up to? But we actually haven't done that much, to be fair.
It's been a quieter year than most, unfortunately. But there's stuff in the pipeline. We're planning to record again, and soon we're working on things in the background. We've got a summer festival day coming up that this is the first ever festival we're putting on ourselves in Sheffield, which he's looking to be a great night so far.
Yeah, well, so I think it's been a bit of a turbulent time for the Widow's Peak boys, hasn't it? So we recorded our debut for Widow's Peak EP. They'll have my hands for this in November 23.
God, yeah.
Yeah, and then our old bassist left, so we kind of delayed promoting that with shows and stuff until we found someone else. And yes, so that we released that in November last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
Did a few shows to support that and stuff. Tried to kind of build on the back of that, and we kind of have gone a bit quiet while we write some new material. So we're working on stuff in the background, as Dex said, in the shadows. Putting on a bit of a festival in August. And yeah, we're hoping to kind of get back out there, get some more shows, try and expand a little bit out into, different cities, countries. If other people would have us, if there's people in Canada or Australia that fancy giving us a call and booking the Widow's Peak guys, then let us know. We'd love to tour. But it's it's kind of been a bit quiet, obviously, other than the EP release. And we're trying to get a bit more active now. So
cool. So have you been writing? Like, obviously, you must be doing some new writing. But have you been writing any new material to go into the studio with?
We have, So we've got a track that we, shall we say too much, Deck, or should we keep it under wraps? An exclusive for the Project Metal. Yeah, leaked. We're working on a track with a new producer, and hoping to kind of release that with them. They're called Steel City Studios. They've done stuff. They've recorded with the likes of Hot Milk, who are quite a big up and coming band. They're touring with they've done a few shows with Foo Fighters and Green Day as well, actually. So that's where they started there. So we're looking forward to working with them. Obviously, our good friend Heartwork, who runs Boy Took Flight Studios down in Bridgend, we are still going to record with them in the future. We just had this opportunity to do a track with the guys at Steel City, so we're looking to do that. The music's all done, I would say. I just need to pull my finger out and write some lyrics. We've kind of gone for a bit more of a upbeat approach, because a lot of our music tends to be quite dark and miserable, and this one leans a bit more into the pop punk side of things, especially the last EP we kind of went,
it was definitely darker than Tears.
It was a bit emo. It's a bit influenced by sort of some modern hardcore stuff as well, wasn't it? And that was the kind of direction with that. So a bit of a change of direction. People can look forward to giving a listen. Deck's got some fun little drum beat. You've got a dance beat on that one, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I thought if we're going for the upbeat.
Yeah. So if you like your dance beats.
Literal upbeat.
Yeah. So that's and then we're hoping to get back with Boy Took Flight at the end of the year and do like a bit of a project. In fact, do you want to? Because I think if you say it, then you'll have to do it.
Oh yeah, it's a good point actually. Yeah, we're hoping to do it. You know how, I don't know if bands still doing, but bands used to split EPs. Like two bands get together and cover each other's songs.
Yeah, people still do that.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of them, Deck, really likes the idea of doing a Christmas song just for the hell of it, and we've since found out Deck is surprisingly a good rapper. We've been doing some karaoke at the local pub, and all of a sudden, a girl asked you to duet with her, do some rap songs.
Yes, classic bars and melody. I I never thought I'd make a good bars.
But here we are.
Was that bars or was that?
I could not tell you. I didn't know the song until you did it.
No, neither did I, but that just
so if
shows my rapping prowess.
If you like your emo, pop punk, rap, Christmas crossovers, then stay tuned.
Yeah. Lisaboo just said, "Cool, I'll apologize."
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. If let us know what you think to the music, give us an honest review. If you do, give it a listen. You know, criticism, good and bad, is welcome.
And she also says, "Love both the dark and more upbeat."
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's always good to, you know, I feel like it's a bit naff to get stuck in either. I feel like if you always writing dark stuff, then that kind of leads you down that path. You kind of almost typecast into, we have to keep doing emo stuff. I can only write things when I'm feeling sad or whatever. Or it works vice versa. If you're only writing happy stuff, you become a bit maybe cheesy or corny. So, you know, I think everyone has both good days and bad days, obviously. So I think it's interesting because I like I said, I've always wrote more so when I like express myself more in music when I've gone through rough times and stuff. So it's a bit of a challenge for me as well to kind of really focus on more positive stuff for at least this project.
Yeah,
so that'd
definitely.
be good. Yeah, and you just, you know, you're happy playing drums. Come rain or shine.
I turn up.
Yeah, do your job.
Play a bit, and that's me.
Yeah. Lisaboo says she will about leaving a break honest opinion. So Lisaboo just asked the question: what is your process for writing songs? What comes first?
Well, it varies, doesn't it? It does vary.
The struggle comes first.
The struggle comes first, second, third, and last. Yeah, we have tried to change it up a little bit, haven't we? So when we were first kind of trying to write stuff, it was very much getting a practice room, jam things out, and just see what sticks. Like it might start with Dave just playing a drum beat. I'm like, oh, I like that. Keep playing that on loop, and then I'll figure out a guitar part or whatever. And then just kind of record those sessions, keep going back to them and stuff like that. For the last EP we did, that was more, because I kind of wrote for, obviously there's three of us in the band and one guitar, but I really wanted it to sound like a bigger and fuller project. So I kind of wrote that at home with GarageBand and layered up some guitars. So I could, instead of just writing for stuff that you can play live, I kind of settled with the fact that I kind of wanted to try some new stuff, really layering up some guitars and stuff. And then this last song that we're working on, that's kind of been a bit of mix of both, really, hasn't it? Actually, we've kind of found the middle ground with it.
Yeah, it's been good too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to leave you with Deck just for 1 second to tell you about our writing process, because my cat, who is an indoor cat, has walked out the door. So I'm going to go and grab him, and Deck can sort you out.
Hello. Yeah, we do apologise.
So when you come with coming up with a song, how would you sort of approach the drum work?
There's sometimes, you go in with an idea and then realise, actually I have not practiced this enough. And then we go from there. A lot of times I do literally just go in and just see what happens, see what comes out. And as I always trying to rip off people like Travis Barker and think people like that all the time. That's sort of my process, to put it. It may not be the best process, but that's how we roll.
Yeah, cool. So do you sort of contribute to the writing of the songs, or do you just actually play drums?
It is mainly drums, unfortunately. I've attempted, but I will admit I'm not the greatest songwriter in the world. I've got my one verse on the last song from our last EP, Strand Raw. I've got a little bridging verse from that, but no, apart from that, Michael here, he's the songwriter.
Cool.
But,
Yeah.
he's sorted.
Yeah.
God, it's a laugh, isn't it?
Yeah. So, thank you for that, Lisa. Thank you for that. So, have you got sort of like any plans on doing any merchandise?
Yes, we do actually. Yeah. So we think about branching out of things like it's got to be like hats, t-shirts, but we're trying to do more things that so like I was like not gifty sort of merch, but like we're pretty big on things like beer mats, things like that at the minute. Merch you can actually use properly rather than just t-shirts and hats and everything.
Yeah, sorry, the cat has been retrieved for anyone concerned. I live next to a garage, and he likes getting out when it's warm and curling under cars. So I've got the cat back. So we might do some Widow's Peak cat flaps. Actually, that'd be a good idea. We have kind of been trying to do. So I think I always like it when bands do like different kinds of merch and stuff. You can obviously go on sites like Vistaprint and stuff and find like generic stuff like stickers and pins and stuff. But I feel like at this kind of level where we're very like grassroots and stuff, people would only get that stuff just to support you financially. Whereas we kind of want to make stuff that's quite cool, quite interesting in its own right. So when we do t-shirts and stuff, we obviously do like the odd ones that have like the logos and stuff, but we do kind of try and branch out and like hire people to make some art that kind of references like lyrics and stuff, but not just exclusive art. We like to put, when we do merch, we put a lot of effort into it, don't we? I'd like to think. But we've got some hats and t-shirts and stuff. I'm trying to think of other cool things we could do. I like it when bands do like beers and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think we should definitely try that.
Yeah. Whenever we're in what do you call it now? The Yorkshireman. I do like to sample a Trooper beer every now and then. I don't know if you've had one yourself.
Yeah. Even though I don't drink.
Okay. Yeah. I like stuff like that. We've definitely, with the new song and stuff, we're like I said, we're going into a new era of the band and trying to add some new stuff. So yeah, we've got a few things in the pipeline. Yeah.
Lisaboo just said pins, like badges and stickers, please.
Yeah, that should be. We've got one of our first. It's funny actually because our first ever Crooked Smile song was called Pins and Needles, which is close to pins and stickers. We can't really make the needles.
Go on, get the guitar. Go on.
Yeah, have a little jam session. Yeah, we will definitely. We need to set up a web store actually with merch. We've been meaning to do that for a while, but we usually just sell it out of cardboard boxes. Well, usually the cardboard boxes that shipment comes in.
Yeah.
We're very lackluster with selling merch, so we will try and get on that and get some pins and stickers sorted.
Cool. So, got a question from Ozzy Ann 2025. She asks, any chance of tours in the future, and if so, where?
We'd love to tour. Like that's honestly the dream for us. I love recording like music and stuff, but I think the best thing about being in the band is live music, isn't it, for me?
Yeah. It'd be great to do another tour. Hopefully, wider in the UK or further out than the UK. Well, we have done tours before, haven't we? We did Sheffield, Manchester, Wigan, all in the space of a week.
Yeah, we did kind of like a north. Well, depends what you classify as north. As Sheffielders, we do still identify as northerners, but some people disagree, don't they, depending on where you're from. But yeah, we did a few shows around that region. We've done Leeds as well before, Bradford. But yeah, we'd love to do a full tour. It's just, I think because of the size that we are, we'd kind of need to network and maybe meet a bigger band or a few bigger bands and kind of put together like a bit of a run of shows. We do like to meet bands and do like gig swaps. So we've done it a couple of times with like bands from Liverpool and Manchester as well, and kind of just said, you support us on our bill and we'll do we'll share gigs and stuff like that. So yeah, if like I said, if there's any bands that do hear this and want to do like a bit of a shared shows, tours, or if there's anyone like listening that maybe runs gigs in other countries and stuff that would have us, we would happily do that. You know, it's not, we don't mind who we're playing to, if it's 10 people or 50 or even 60 people. We're more than happy to do those kind of gigs. So yeah, we'd love to tour if the opportunity presented itself.
Cool. Usually Lisaboo normally asks this. Oh, just happens. She asked it. She asks, "Do you have a favorite venue?"
Favorite venue? Definitely you go first.
That is a tough one. Favorite venue we've played. That is a tough one. That stage wise, I would have to say Corporation Corp in Sheffield. Yeah, it's massive, high stage. Gig itself was great. That was actually part of the last tour we did. Yeah, stage wise, I'd have to say Corp.
Yeah, so for gigs that we've played, I would say Yellow Arc is up there. That's in a place called Kelham Island in Sheffield. It's a really nice kind of, it's quite a long haul kind of thing. That's really nice. But we've played quite a few gigs recently. A place called Sydney and Matilda, and they've got 3 different gig rooms. They've got one that's like a basement room with quite a low ceiling. The stage is quite low, but then I think you kind of got like quite a lot of good like crowd interaction when you play.
Yeah, it's good for that there.
Yeah,
and another good venue, Lugo, which we played Lugo for a charity event last year. Yeah, Lugo is it's a DIY punk venue in Sheffield. So it's all really volunteer run. The stage is great. It's always a good crowd. Yeah, absolutely great venue.
Our practice. So you know the guys that run it and stuff, and we've got our practice room there. So we rent a space at Lugo for people outside of the UK. Lugo, it's kind of like a colloquial way of saying like your ear roll or your ear. So that's where it comes from. And yeah, that's a cool venue. Really cool people there that run it. It's all, like I said, not it's all volunteers and it's all DIY and it's just a really cool space. So I don't know why we didn't think of that first. I suppose because we only played it once, really. But yeah, some cool venues. I think one of my favourite venues of all time though that we've not played is Castlefield Bowl at Manchester. I don't know if you've ever seen any gigs there, but it's like an outdoor venue with it's quite sloped, cobbled with like an amphitheatre kind of place. Saw Blink-182 there in 2016, and yeah, I would put that as an all-time favourite venue. But I'd love to play that actually if we ever, that's a dream.
If Blink ever come back and ask,
we'll ask them. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be in touch. I think you're muted, by the way. I don't know.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Lisa normally asks this sort of like following question. Have you got a dream venue to play at?
Dream venue? It'd have to be a homecoming gig at Leadmill. Leadmill, Sheffield, before it unfortunately goes, which it now is, sadly. But if there's a chance before it does shut, definitely Leadmill, Sheffield. That would be the dream.
Yeah, I definitely put Castlefield Bowl up there. There's a really cool one in Leeds. It's actually the O2 Academy in Leeds. It's like a cathedral. And there's a cool. What's the one? There's a similar one in to Castlefield Bowl in Hollywood. And is it the Hollywood Bowl? Or Red?
It might be,
and there's like that Red Rock one as well, isn't there?
Red Rock, kind of
just built into the rocks.
Oh yeah.
But those ones it'd be super cool to play. Oh, actually, 924 Gilman Street, I think still.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is still going.
Just for as you can tell, me and Deck are sort of like early pop punk nerds with it. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that would have to be up there as a dream one for me as well.
Cool. So, where can people find you on social media?
I think the best place is probably Instagram. I think all our tags are at Widow's Peak Official, all one word. Best finding us. Yeah, Instagram we're probably the most active, but we do have a TikTok, which we're just too old to be posting on TikTok. I think regularly. we both have full-time jobs, and TikTok is just sort of started where we're like, oh, we're not posting on TikTok, and maybe we've missed a trick with that. Maybe we should try and post on TikTok. But we've got Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all your regular platforms, and hoping to, as I said, with new music and everything, hoping to be a bit more active. Always going to respond to DMs if anyone wants to have a chat or sort of wants to get in touch and book us or whatever like that. We're quite active on those platforms. So yeah, Widow's Peak Official is where you can find us.
Cool. So, if you've got any more questions, guys, in the chat, please ask away. We're going to start wrapping things up in the next 5-10 minutes or so. Any advice for people who want to become a musician, whether it be for their own sort of like enjoyment or sort of like going down the commercial route?
Well, I think you might be asking the wrong people as two relatively unsuccessful musicians by any metrics. But I mean, I'd say we've been doing it for quite a while now. Obviously, in just this band alone, we've done it since. Well, I mean, I think we released our first song in 2019, but we started maybe in 2018.
Yeah.
And that's kind of took. I'd say that's kind of took us through. Obviously, I was 19 when I met Deck to now being 26, and that's kind of, I've had this band as a constant from being a second year student through COVID, and then into full-time work and stuff, and I've kind of done this, and I think that the kind of advice that I would give is, unless you make it straight out the gate, your expectations and aspirations for stuff might fluctuate as you kind of get into the real world. But I think, I know a lot of people my age that I went to school with that were in relatively successful bands and stuff, and then they hit 23, 24 working and couldn't make the time for it, and was like, I think we've took the band in terms of a growth perspective, we've took the band as far as we can go, let's call it a day, and then kind of never picked up again, which I think is a shame. I don't get me wrong, like when we were 19 and stuff, the dream was to be full-time musicians and stuff, and I think unless something drastically changes, I think my dreams and expectations for stuff have altered, but I think you have to really, if you're truly passionate about making music and stuff, you can always fit into your life. You don't. I think it's easy to, especially in this day and age with the likes of TikTok and influencers and stuff, that if you're not successful, then there's no point in doing it. It's an easy mentality to fall into. Whereas, I think just do it for the love of the game, really. Do it because it's fun. Do it because you've got mates that you get to spend time with. Do it because you meet new people. Do it because you can express yourself. And we've met so many good people. Like I said, we've got a really close friend that does our producing in Bridgend in Wales, which we would have never met if we didn't try and do stuff like this. Yeah. And I always just think of it as, regardless of if 2 people listen to the music we put out or hundreds of thousands do, like, I'll always have that, in 20, 30 years time as a bit of a checkpoint in my life where I can think, oh, I remember feeling that way. I remember how much energy I put into that. I remember how excited I was. So I think there's so many reasons to create music and to be in a band or as an artist. So I'd say I'd just summarize with, just don't get sucked into the idea that it should always be about success and making it, because you know, I think there's so much fulfilling potential in just making music for the fun of it. That's what I'd say anyway.
Yeah, I think just full send it. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. If you think you want to do it, do it. Don't be held back by too high expectations or too low expectations or anything like that. If this is what you want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, there's so much personal growth that comes with it. I mean, I know from my personal perspective, the first times we were going on stages and stuff, you know, also I'd also say actually don't be afraid to be crap, because like I said, I will sway people away from finding our first EP and stuff because I sounded awful vocally, and that's, but you know, and people would tell me all the time, like my mates, and said like, you know, you're not actually good, and I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. You know, I'll either get good or I won't, but either way, I'm having fun, and you know, we wouldn't have got to, I say get to where we were, but we wouldn't be doing stuff like this if I didn't just keep trying, didn't keep you know, experimenting and learning and stuff. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. But the first times we were playing gigs and stuff, I was messing up so much when I was playing. My hands were shaking. You know, we'd learned the songs back to front, but you know, when the adrenaline hits you, you shake. But you just power through that. And I know you, Dec, you know, considering from where we started, you won't see Dec play a gig without his shirt off, and that's a Declan promise.
That's how I've grown.
Yeah,
in a band. Yeah. The shirt is on a lot less frequently these days.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to add to that? Yeah, I mean, you've been doing music. Dec is definitely the talent in the band.
Nah, stop it. You're gonna make me blush in a minute.
But Dec's like a proper musician. So if you know, I think you've probably, like, you know, you've done like grades and stuff, haven't you? Like,
yeah, early ones, but yeah.
But Dec,
not early one.
Dec is a good person to talk to about that stuff because, you know, Dec does open mics where he plays so many different types of music, like you do, like jazz. Even if you look at, if you find the music video for Tears in the Palace Under the Crooked Smiles, you'll notice for the drummers out there that Dec plays pop punk, or used to play pop punk, with a jazz grip. And you know, as someone that's not a drummer, I wasn't that impressed by that at first. I was like, why are you holding your stick like that? But if for anyone that's a drummer, you'd be like, oh, that is sick.
It grabbed attention.
It did, yeah. Anyone that knew what you were doing thought it was sick.
You gotta do these things.
But no, I think you're a good person because you've, like I said, you're proper talented, and you could probably tell people about that if you've got anything else to say.
I'll stop it. Yeah, I think I just gotta go and go for it. If set small goals where you want to be, right? So yeah, right. I want to learn this song or write this song. Right, well, how do you make a start on that? So that's the first step, and then right, and then what? Because you can't, like people say, you can't walk before you can run, or run before you can walk. So.
Well, you can't walk before you can run.
That's it.
Why would you be able to run before you can walk?
I've ruined this.
You've embarrassed yourself online.
I've ruined it. Well, yeah, that's the thing what you gotta do. Yeah, go for it. Do what you want to do. Set realistic goals.
Yeah, I'd say as well, like just one final thing, which is not as maybe deep as what we've been talking about, but you know, I think it's great to have like your style of music and like genres that you're interested in, but you know, for inspiration, don't be afraid to listen to other genres, and you know, for me personally, as you can probably tell from what we've talked about, like we're massively into sort of like Alkaline Trio, Blink-182, more newer bands like One Step Closer and stuff. But you know, it would be so easy to be like, oh, we love Blink-182, let's just write, you know, pop punk songs that sound like Blink-182. But I think from the very beginning, I made a conscious decision that I didn't want to just write that. So then I looked for other sources of inspiration and stuff, and how I can, you know, if you grow up learning Blink-182 riffs, and you're going to probably write similar stuff. So it's like, you know, expand your horizons for stuff like that. You know, at the minute I'm listening to some really almost embarrassing. I'm big into Alanis Morissette at the minute. I'm big into stuff like Mr. Jones by the Crows, is it? Or Counting Crows, that's it. It's just stuff like your cheesy pop rock. I'm big into what do you call them now? They do Fly. What is it now? Who is it? Sugar Ray. That's it. I'm big into Sugar Ray at the minute, and that's not good. Yeah, but yeah, expand your horizons. I'd say use different influences, and that's probably advice I'd give.
Yeah, Lisaboo says great advice. Craig Mawson says thank you so much for coming on. Same with Lisaboo and Ozzy as well, saying thank you so much.
Thank you all for spending your evening/morning, I suppose, if you're in Australia. Thanks for spending it with us and Project Metal Music as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been fun. It's been absolutely fun.
We've had a blast. Thanks for having us. We'd love to come back sometime if you'd have us. So.
Oh god, yeah. definitely. Once you get some stuff recorded and released, and we'll get you back on again.
Thanks for having us.
So one final thing. Any final words before we go?
Dick, you can take the floor to start with.
Yeah. Again, massive thank you. We'll keep you posted. Keep an eye out, and hopefully we'll see. Hopefully you'll hear from us again soon.
Yeah, I'd say give us a listen. Might be your thing, might not be, but you know, it's one for our egos anyway. If that listener can't go, so and yeah, just subscribe to Project Metal Music as well, of course. And yeah, hopefully we'd love to hear from you all, and if you found us through this.
Cool. Yeah, guys, go check them out. These guys are absolutely brilliant. I've been on and off for the last couple of weeks. I've been listening to these guys, and yeah, absolutely brilliant. Go check them out. I've put all the links down in the description now, so please go check them out. So, guys, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a complete pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. The pleasure is all ours.
Yeah, so guys, until next time, we'll catch you all later.
See you later.
Yeah, man.